What's going on, everybody out there on YouTube? Once again, this is the dude in the Galactic Brew coming to you live and in effect. And I gotta tell you, man, I am so anxious. Excitement is not even the word. I am so anxious about UFC 129 this Saturday night, because I think that this pay-per-view here is truly going to be a pay-per-view event of epic proportions. I know that cliche gets thrown around a lot, but this pay-per-view card, I believe, is truly gonna have, especially with the two main events on this card being what they are, and being that they're both title fights. I think that being with these two historic main events on the pay-per-view, I think the cliche epic proportions is truly going to reign supreme here. This video I'm doing here is not a prediction video, because I'm still trying to, spread out all my thoughts and my predictions on who is going to win which fight. More specifically, my predictions more than my thoughts. But this video here, I'm going to do something a little unique. I'm actually going to give you my statistics, and also just my just my personal thoughts and my little X factors and stuff of which opponent needs to do such and such to defeat either the champion or the more dominant, higher level opponent. Let's just put it that way. So this is going to be a new thing that I'm going to do on YouTube before I do any predictions on my MMA videos. This is for MMA videos only. I'm going to do this on. Okay, maybe like, more sports related videos or whatever, but I'm going to start doing this thing on YouTube called George's Logic, which is my first name, which is George, and this is basically just going to be my pre-fight breakdown of ways for the challengers and the more underrated opponents to win their fight. So, without any further ado, here we go. Let's see. Now, the Jake Shields-George St.pierre fight. Everybody, that I've been listening to, and every article that I've been reading on the net, everybody's pretty much saying, that, St.pierre might take Jake Shields down just to prove a point, or everybody's saying that George St.pierre is not afraid to go on the mat with Jake Shields. Personally, in my opinion, I think that's a bunch of baloney, if I've ever heard it. George St.pierre's ego can get in front of him all he wants, because that's what great fighters have. They have egos. I don't know why, but anyway, you always hear the egotistical remarks from the fighters talking about, I'm not afraid to do this and I'm not afraid to do that. Truly, George St.pierre, yes you are. You are afraid to go to the ground with Jake Shields. And I'm going to tell y'all why George St.pierre is not going to be too reluctant to go to the mat with Jake Shields. Number one, Jake Shields is head and shoulders a better overall grappler than St.pierre is. He's competed in national grappling competitions. I believe he's been to Abu Dhabi twice and competed in, the prestigious jiu-jitsu slash submission tournament over there. Um, Another thing to think about is he trains with a member of the Gracie family, Caesar Gracie. I know a lot of people may not know who he is, but you know the name Gracie, and if you know that last name, then you pretty much know who he is. So that's enough said. Um, you know, and then on top of that, he's just been, as the old cliche goes, battle tested. I mean, he's been through the trials and tribulations of, you know, uh, primetime fights, and he's succeeded. I mean, this guy won a 8-man tournament at Rumble on the Rock, an independent organization, and he's beaten like maybe two of the best at middleweight and welterweight. Of course, you know who I'm talking about in Carlos, the Natural Born Killer Condit, and Yushin Thunder Okami. And not too many guys can say that they've beat them, because those guys are just, so experienced, and those are real elite level fighters. So for Jake Shields to beat those guys simultaneously, that's a big feather in his cap. Okay, and then he was one of the first people to make Robbie Lawler submit. Enough said. On top of that, he submitted another dangerous competitor / striker in Paul Daly. And Paul Daly just challenged Nick Diaz for the welterweight championship in Strikeforce. So there you go. Let's see. He beat Dan Henderson. How many people can actually say that they beat Dan Henderson? I mean, really. And I'm not trying to put Dan Henderson on a pedestal to make it seem like he's just great. I mean, he is to a certain extent, but, he's not like, Fedor, Anderson Silva, George St.pierre, Jose Aldo great. Dare say BJ Penn. He's not achieved the greatness of those gentlemen, but he's up there with them, though. I'll say that. He may not be there next to him, but he's definitely, probably right up under him, No disrespect either, Hendo, because I like you. I like you a lot. But Jake Shields beat Dan Henderson. But more importantly, he dominated Dan Henderson on the mat with wrestling. Think about that. He out-wrestled Dan Henderson. A former Olympic, what was it? Wasn't he an alternate or something on the Olympic team, or he was on the Olympic team or something? But Dan Henderson is a national champion in wrestling. Probably one of the best wrestlers, if not the best wrestler in mixed martial arts. Period. And Jake Shields just completely just smothered him on the ground. Need I mind you, after getting clipped hard by a straight right jab. I think it was either a right hook or a jab, one of them, from Dan Henderson, and actually getting dropped, flatlined on his face, and still came back to take Dan Henderson down and just completely shut him up the rest of that fight. Magnificent, that's some majestic stuff right there. And then, he went the distance with Jason Mayhem Miller, a little before the Dan Henderson fight. Now, Jason Miller, that guy probably might be, one of the toughest guys in MMA to beat. I mean, there's a very seldom bunch of competitors that can say they beat Jason Mayhem Miller. And again, it's not to put these guys on pedestals, but they're just at such a higher level than most, and they train harder than most, and they've competed against better competition than most. That's what makes them so great. But the bottom line is this. Jake Shields can take down George St.pierre, okay? Bottom line. Jake Shields can take George St.pierre down. And I believe he will take George St.pierre down. Because unless, you delusional, unknowledgeable MMA fans out there forget, mainly the casual fans, wrestling beats jiu-jitsu any day, anywhere, anytime. Now, if you have, the God-given ability of having both wrestling and jiu-jitsu in your repertoire, then that makes you even more dangerous on the mat. And that's what George St.pierre has to worry about. I mean, sure, George St.pierre is a good wrestler. Yeah, he is. He probably may be the best MMA wrestler. Now, if you want to talk about pure wrestling, then of course you have to give that to Jake Shields. Because, if you've been looking at the countdown or been looking at the preview or whatever, Jake Shields does have a legitimate wrestling background. So, he will be able to take George St.pierre down. But as far as George St.pierre talking about he doesn't want to go to the mat with, that he's not afraid to go to the mat with Jake Shields, that's just his ego talking. That's not the human being George St.pierre. That's the, pound for pound, arguably best fighter in the world, ego talking. He knows really, in the depths of his heart, that he's not going to try and take that man down just to prove a point. He's not. George St.pierre is going to try and stuff Jake Shields' takedowns, keep the fight standing up, and try to knock him out. Bottom line. That's going to be his entire goal in that fight, is to knock Jake Shields out. What Jake Shields needs to do is he needs to come out from the jump, and he immediately needs to pour on relentless pressure on GSP, pin him against the fence, land some knees, elbows, punches, whatever you got to do, dirty box him, and he literally needs to muscle GSP up and take him down, because St.pierre is a freakishly strong man. And you're not gonna find a lot of guys that are just average in strength that are gonna take him down. You gotta have a powerful man to actually get GSP down to the ground, to make his feet even touch the ground or put him on his heels. You're gonna have to be strong, and I believe Jake Shields is strong enough to take St.pierre down. And then on top of that, you got to factor in Jake Shields has dominant control on the ground. He doesn't really let guys get out of his guard. He's good at keeping a good guard. He has excellent control from behind as well as on top of the opponent. So if this fight, if Jake Shields, which I believe he will, at least I think I say 2 times in the fight, if Jake Shields gets George St.pierre down, George St.pierre will be in trouble. Because George St.pierre, you can be delusional all you want to, and you can be, in denial about this all you want. But George St.pierre is not a world champion in jiu-jitsu. He just recently took up wrestling not too long ago, even though he's caught on very quickly, but still, he's not at the caliber of grappling that Jake Shields is. Trust me. The only way George St.pierre can win this fight is if he keeps the fight standing and tries to knock Jake Shields out. Bottom line. But anyway, that's my thoughts, or my logic, so to speak, on the St.pierre Shields fight. And yeah, That'll do it.